If you've never coded at all in your life and you want to start, don't worry. This is a complete beginner tutorial and I'm going to walk you through how to set everything up to start Python and get through the basic concepts. Make sure to download the latest version of Python. Next, make sure to have Visual Studio. Once it's open, create a new text file, then save that file under a certain name. Remember to make sure it's a Python file when you save it. I also recommend having a designated folder on your computer. Once your screen is ready, it should look like this. If you see a side panel open on the left, drag it out of the way. We don't need it right now. Now that the setup's done, let's get started. The first thing you should do is print Hello World. Print is a function in Python that will display the data that is in between the brackets, regardless of the type. There are different types of data in Python which can be used in different ways. Integers are whole numbers, floats are decimals, strings are words, and booleans are either true or false. In the case of numeric values such as floats and integers, the print function can be used to display the answer of basic arithmetic operations. Now, if I want to be able to reuse certain pieces of data in Python, I gotta be able to store them somewhere in the program. That's where variables come in. You just type a variable name, then assign it a value with an equal sign. Passing the variable name to the print function will display the value, not the variable name. However, if you put the variable name in between double quotes, it will become a string, and the name itself will be displayed. If you want the user to decide the value of a variable, you can use the input function. For example, to get user input for the first name, make a variable called firstName and set it equal to the input function. In the brackets, write enter your first name in double quotes. However, anything the input function returns is a string. So if you want the numerical value, like the user's age, place the entire right side of the variable declaration in brackets, then write int as shown on screen. This turns the value from a string into an integer. Now let's say we want to test the user input and compare it to a certain condition. We can use what are called conditional statements. Let's say we give the user two options. We can use the following method to check. If the user chose option 1, print A, else print B. Since there are only two options, we don't have to check if the user selected option 2. If there are three options, then we'd write if user chose option 1, if user chose option 2, else it will by default mean that the user chose option 3. If there are many related pieces of information, instead of making a variable for every item, you could store all the items in a list. In the case of a grocery list, each item would be a string. There are three basic things to remember about lists in Python. A list can contain any data type. The same list can contain two different data types. Lists can also contain other lists. The other thing you should know is list indexing. An index is like the address of a certain entry on the list. List indexes start with 0. So in a list of 3 items, the first item is at index 0 and the last item is at index 2. We can access an index of a list by writing the list name, then the index in square brackets. Up next, we have loops. Loops allow us to repeat code. Let's say we have a list of variables and we want to print out the variables that are strings. We would have to go through the list and check the data type of each variable. We know that we want to repeat this process for every item in the list, and since we know how many times we want to repeat the code, we could use a for loop as shown on screen. The I in square brackets indicates we want to see whatever is at the ith index of the list. The range function in the for loop will automatically start at 0, then go to the full length of the list -1. We also have while loops, which will always run as long as a condition evaluates to true. In this example program you see on screen, I made a while loop that will always run as long as I input lowercase y. But if I input anything else, this condition evaluates to false, and the loop breaks. And there you have it. We just touched on 7 basic concepts in Python in less than 10 minutes. If you've made it this far, make sure to subscribe because there are more in-depth and intermediate tutorials on the way. Feel free to leave any feedback in the comments and have a wonderful day, everyone.